Hola, buenos días a todos. Muchas gracias por estar presentes hoy en esta mañana de miércoles 16 de octubre para más un webinar de Américas Capital. Hola Ramiro, Juliá, ¿cómo estás?
Carla, buen día, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estamos hoy? Ahí
Buen
veo que se
día.
están sumando asistentes.
Sí, están sumando asistentes para este webinar súper interesante sobre el mercado de Brasil. Ramiro, vas a ser el anfitrión hoy de nuestro invitado, así que un placer tenerte nuevamente en los webinars.
Hace mucho, ¿no? Que no venía. Gracias,
Exacto, te
gracias
extrañamos.
por la presentación.
Buenísimo. Bueno, guardamos un minutito más para que se vayan sumando todos los participantes y bueno, la palabra es tuya, Ramiro, y de nuestro invitado hoy.
Perfecto. Vos me decís cuándo arrancamos y vamos nos adentramos en la presentación.
Genial. La presentación, para no hacerla tal vez en portuñol, la hacemos en inglés hoy, pero no se preocupen porque esta presentación va a ir direccionada, como siempre, a todos los que se registraron al webinar, los participantes, y después también se va a enviar el video que es compartido en YouTube y ahí, si alguien quiere repasar algún concepto que se ha mostrado durante esta presentación, claramente tiene el translation de YouTube, así que no se preocupen que todos van a poder acceder a la información. Buenísimo.
Excelente.
¿Te parece que iniciemos, Ramiro? ¿Cómo estamos?
Sí, si te parece, ya hay varios asistentes que se han sumado y mientras tanto vamos dándole la bienvenida a Tobias. Yo no veo mi pantalla, no sé si me están viendo, pero
Sí, te estamos viendo.
perfecto. Bueno, nada. Um, Welcome everybody. It's an honor today to have Tobias Bremer with us. He's the CEO of Hausbau. I know Tobias for the last 15, 20 years. Long time. Um, we've been watching his career for a long time, and the company he built in Brazil, Hausbau, it's a player now in the market. Started as I said years ago, but we finally last year we decided to do our first project in Brazil. We did our first investment with Tobias in Sao Paulo. We're very excited on how that is progressing very nicely. So we want to do more in Brazil. We think that Brazil is the market in Latin America compared to other markets. Argentinians we are used to, like Uruguay or Paraguay. It's far superior in the fundamentals, in the volume, in the liquidity. So that's why we think that it's a great play for our money and for our investors. So um, it's a pleasure to have you, Tobias. Please jump in at any moment. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little bit and shortly how this beautiful adventure of Hausbau have grown over the years.
Sure. Thank you very much, Ramiro. Thank you, Carla, for having me. The second time I'm with you. I'm very excited about this. Um, if 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 you don't mind, why don't we just jump in the presentation? I have just a brief slide on Hausbau and myself, and then
Perfect.
we can talk about the Brazilian market as we said. So Hausbau is a real estate developer active in São Paulo and its surrounding areas. We focus on the residential market in the affordable segment. We are a full service firm. We started out in 2012 as a developer, but very quickly understood that we needed to embrace the entire cycle to be successful. So after opening our own sales team, we went into the whole credit analysis and credit market which is a key element for sales. Buyers here are reliant on getting their credit in order to be able to afford their homes. And most recently, in 2017, we integrated backwards into the construction, primarily out of quality concerns and being able to control the entire cycle. We are committed to realizing the dream of home ownership in a very simple and transparent way. Our portfolio nowadays stretches along 15 plus projects, totaling over 4,500 units with roughly R1 billion in gross sales value. We have delivered some 1,300 apartments so far. We have another 1,100 under construction. And as I said, some 2,000 something apartments under development. Carla, if you don't mind, just switching to the next slide. Very quickly about myself. I was born in Germany. I lived the first 15 years of my life in Germany before moving to Brazil. I went back to Europe to study in Switzerland, where I graduated with a master in finance. I more recently graduated from Harvard, the OPM program. I started my career in investment banking, spent 10 years at JP Morgan in London, New York, and in Sao Paulo. Founded, as I said, Hausbau in 2012. I'm a certified board member of the Brazilian Institute for Corporate Governance, and I'm also a member of YPO since 2009. My partner and executive director at Hausbau is Eleni Dantas. She has a bachelor in law with an extension in management from the Fundação Getúlio Vargas here in Sao Paulo. She comes from the commercial and credit side with 20 years of experience, primarily in sales and real estate credit. We actually merged her company into Hausbau a couple of years ago after she was become a very valuable part of our whole strategy.
Excellent, Tobias. I know I've been privileged witness of this growth of the company you had since the very beginning, I think. And it's impressive how the company have evolved and the niche that you are tackling. I think we share the same vision about the opportunities. So it's a pleasure to see this in the presentation.
Yes, it's been quite a ride. Very interesting. I think lots of learning experience. Brazil is a fascinating country. It's a challenging country. There are a lot of changes. But what's interesting is, and I think you can appreciate it, it's sometimes more difficult to transmit this to our partners in Europe or in the US. Even if you have political changes, even if you have some macroeconomic hiccups, the economy is very strong and keeps on growing. And more than that, the demand for affordable housing in Brazil is something that's absolutely impressive. And I will talk about this a little bit later in the presentation.
Yes, you know, as Argentinian, we're used to that. And one of the things we really like about the Brazilian market is the stability and the volume that the market has. And another thing very important we found is the professionalism that you see in the real estate market compared to other markets in Latin America. I think Brazil is doing a great job in developing talent and credit tools and investment vehicles in order to expand the market. So that's why that's one of the reasons why we're so enthusiastic about Brazil.
Yes, definitely. It's a huge market for us. It's a huge market for the economy. And as you said, it's an evolving market. So over the last decade, we've seen changes in the legislation. We have changes in financing. We have seen the capital markets opening up to real estate projects, both for the financing of the construction, but also for consumer credit. So there's been a lot of developments which are really driving the market and which are very positive for our segment. Here on the slide, it's just to give you an example of the type of projects we're doing. This is what we call affordable housing. So we're focusing on the vertical market. We don't do houses, we only do buildings, mostly with complete leisure facilities, which in Brazil, even in the affordable housing, people are in the affordable housing segment, people are asking for, with obviously different characteristics, whether you're in the city of São Paulo or outside. And the main difference here is parking spaces and public access to public transportation. But just to give you an idea of the type of projects we're doing, you have a couple of pictures here. Carl, if you move on, let's jump into the market. And I just wanted to start off with a couple of key macroeconomic indicators. Coming out of COVID, during COVID, we obviously had a decrease in GDP growth, but as you can see, we had a fairly stable growth over the last couple of years and predicted to continue. But what's really important for us and what's a key success factor for us is the unemployment rate. So Brazil has been very successful in reducing the unemployment. We're now at 6.9%, or expected to close the year at 6.9%. This is a key driver for us because people who are obviously employed can only buy an apartment, and people who are afraid of being unemployed will not buy an apartment. So the unemployment rate is something that we always look at. The other things we need to keep an eye on is inflation. And you see the IPCA and the IGPM indicators, the two main indicators here in Brazil. So inflation is back under control after a couple of very difficult years during COVID and after COVID, where especially the IGPM indicator really shot up and construction costs went up very, very significantly over a very short period of time. The other benchmark that people always talk about is the Selic rate, the banking interest rate benchmark. It's still high, in my opinion, compared to where it used to be. Obviously 2% back during 2020 was the low point in Brazilian history. So we're currently at 11.75, but it's very important to keep in mind that this is not the rate that people are lending or people are getting their real estate credit from. We have different systems in Brazil where the banks draw on to finance mortgages. And it's important to highlight that our client get the mortgages somewhere between 6 and 8, maybe 8.75% per year. And that's because the funding comes from a mandatory worker saving program where everybody has to pay in. And by law, that money needs to be applied to the real estate market. So while the interbank interest rate is still high, the lending rate to our clients is significantly below that. And that's the other key driver for our market.
Yeah, that's a big advantage of our type of projects, right? Because you have the possibility to access a big market with a very competitive rate compared to the environmental rate.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have basically 3 different funding structures in the real estate market in Brazil. One is based on the mandatory worker saving programs, which is the FTGS, which pays 4%. So banks are able, or the Caixa as the main bank is able to lend it out between 6 and 8% and still have a decent spread. The second segment is the savings accounts, the poupanças, which currently pay about 6%. So there, all banks can draw on that and lend the money for mortgages. That gives you maybe a mortgage of 8% or 9%. And then the third would be let's say the capital markets rate where you get to higher mortgages, but that's really just for high-end projects. The affordable projects, they all draw either on the mandatory worker savings program or on the savings account. So it allows us to work in an environment where the interest rate for our clients is below the interbank interest rate.
Probably you will mention this on the presentation, but remind me what are the banks you are currently working with in a most active way?
The, the, the dominating force in real estate, in mortgages in Brazil is the Caixa Econômica Federal, which is a state-owned savings bank here in Brazil. They control roughly 70% of the real estate market, and they're very much focused on the entry level. So the lower you go in terms of value of the apartment, the higher the dominance of the Caixa will be as a government tool to drive home ownership. And then the other 30% are basically divided between the big banks here in Brazil. Obviously, that's Itaú, that's Santander, that's Bradesco, but that's also players like ABC, Safra, and a couple of other players.
Yeah.
We work with all of them. Obviously, in the lower income brackets, we're almost exclusively focused on Caixa, but in the mid level, we work with all of them.
One thing that is, repetitive questions among the investors is the exchange rate. When they make the investment and when they exit the investment, what could be the variability? And one thing that we always tell investors is that this is a bet on the real. They have to see as a long-term investment. What you can tell us about that, and what is your best recommendation? I mean, our recommendation is to think long-term, but if you can comment on the exchange rate, I think it's a question that the investors always have when talking about investing with us in Brazil.
Yes, I think that's a valid question. It's obviously a concern when you invest in a different country, in a different currency. The projections that we have here on the slide is actually for an appreciation of the real next year. We do have high real-term interest rates right now, so that's driving capital inflows into the country, which should lead to an appreciation of the currency. We also have quite a lot of pressure domestically for fiscal accountability and fiscal balance. With Lula, we have a left-leaning government, but we have an independent central bank, and there's a lot of pressure on the government from, I would say, society and the industry associations to maintain fiscal stability. So
that's very important. How independent is the central bank, in your opinion?
The central bank is completely independent. It has been, it's completely independent. There has been some mentioning of government interference, but it has proven over the last couple of years that it's really maintaining its course, and the main focus for the central bank is inflation control.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yes, this is a slide I like to start off with, and it's just a summary, but I think it gives you an impression of the size of the market. And when we talk about the real estate market, it's really that they're different markets. So there's what I call social housing, which is housing for people who currently have no housing or live in inadequate housing, and that's not something we focus on. We understand that's something the government needs to do. So that would be getting people off the streets or getting people out of the shanty town. So that's not something we're doing, and that's not included in the numbers that I'm going to be talking about. I just wanted to make that clear. What we're really focused on is what I call the emerging middle class. So that's families. Most of the times, both people will work. One to two children. Um, um, our clients often are at the beginning of the family life. But what's really interesting is that we have an existing housing deficit here in Brazil of roughly 1.6 million units. And depending who and which numbers you look at, that changes a little bit, but it's roughly 1.5, 1.6 million units. We have new homes formation every year of about 250,000 units, of which 110 are in our target market, which I define as people earning 3 to 10, 3 to 12 minimum wages. If we look at São Paulo state and São Paulo city, that's obviously where a lot of the economic purchasing power in Brazil is concentrated. São Paulo city represents roughly 10% of São Paulo's population. Brazil's population. The state is 20%. It represents a third of GDP, and with 44 million inhabitants, it's a size that's similar to a lot of mid-sized countries. So the message that I wanted to give you here is, if we look at the next 10 years, we have a demand of over 1 million units in the segment that we focus at. So we have a long run here of demand going forward. Carla, if you want to jump to the next slide, let's talk specifically about the housing market in São Paulo city. So this is not the state, this is just São Paulo city. We have a market that over the last 12 months sold 92,000 apartments. At the same time, 90,000 apartments were brought to the market. So you can see that slightly, a little bit more apartments were sold than were launched. So we're eating a little bit into inventory. This represents roughly 50 billion reais over the last 12 months. The VSO numbers, which is the sales speed, they represent roughly 15% of the supply is being consumed in 1 month. So this is the turnover that we have.
How much apartments we have to sell in our next project?
How many apartments?
Yes.
106, I believe. Well, excluding the ones that we already sold, it's like 70 or something. No, 60.
So it's a big ocean. I mean, this is one of the things that we like about Sao Paulo and investing with Tobias, is that the market is really, really big and the liquidity is there. The projects, they move fast, very, very fast compared to other markets. And I think that the main reason why Americas it's following this market and investing here, because the market is so huge and it's increasing, and we every time we travel to Sao Paulo and stay there, we see the growth. You can perceive the growth on the street. So I think for our investors, this is the bigger opportunity.
Yes. If you come to São Paulo, you see construction sites all over the place, and it's really interesting to see that this is not only a one-time boom, but this has been going on over the last couple of years and is projected to go on for the next decade at least.
No, and one thing that you see, you don't see speculation, because you see real people buying real houses or real apartments for the family, for living. It's not a market that is driven by speculation, rather by economy and economic growth, and that's very important, because in our opinion it gives sustainability to the system.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, to qualify for the subsidized interest rates that I mentioned, it has to be your first home. So,
Exactly.
So these are first-time buyers buying a home to live in. Let's move on to the next slide. Just to give you an idea here over the last 2 years, because not to just give you a highlight of the last 12 months, we had a really good last 12 years. When you look last 12 months, sorry, when you look at the number of units sold, we divided this here in Minha Casa Minha Vida, which is the government project that incentivizes affordable home ownership in São Paulo. The limit today is 350,000 reais per unit.
So that's the lower end, basically.
That is the affordable segment, what I call affordable segment. So the maximum an apartment can cost in that project or in that program is 350,000. So if you look at this in reais terms, you can see that a quarter of the market in São Paulo city is the affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is explained, and we'll see it in the next slide in the numbers. There's obviously a lot of projects in the affordable housing, but you can see it's almost a half of it. But in value terms, the high-end housing is obviously makes up a bigger point. Just to give you an idea, when we talk about affordable housing, we talk maybe about 8,000 reais a square meter of selling price. When we talk about high end, we talk about 25,000, and then the really high end is now reaching 70,000 reais a square meter. So we have a huge difference between what is affordable housing, what is mid-level, and what is high-end housing, and that is reflected primarily here in the numbers when we look at reais figures. But you can see that the
into US dollars, our target market it's around 1,500.
It's around $1,500.
Yeah.
A square meter.
Per square meter, yes.
Yes, and then the latest project, the most expensive one, which is by the way a project with Argentine partner, the new Faena Hotel here in São Paulo, that is being sold at 75,000 reais a dollar, 70,500 reais a square meter.
Which in dollars comes to
$15,000.
$15,000. That is in the Avenida Paulista, right?
No, it's right here next to. It's actually right next to our office here in Faria Lima with Pinheiros.
They already opened, right? The project.
The sales are open. They haven't started building yet, but the sales are open.
I heard it's a big success. Big success.
Yes, it's a fantastic project.
We're happy for our friend Alan Faena.
It's really going to change the neighborhood it's in. It's an absolutely amazing project.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good because that proves that our point that Brazil, especially Sao Paulo, for Argentinian investors, it's an undiscovered gem compared to other markets we usually see. So it's good that these type of things are happening because I think there's tremendous opportunities for Argentinians investors in Brazil, especially in Sao Paulo. So that's confirm our point, basically.
Yes. Just Carla, going back to the slide before, I just wanted to make a point on the growth. As you can see, last 12 months have been really good, growing 26% in terms of volumes of number of units sold. This is actually units sold. This is not inventory. In the affordable segment, the growth was even higher at almost 40%. So tremendous demand for affordable housing in the city of São Paulo, and that's it's clear. It's a huge city. People need to live in the city. They cannot live outside. It's too far. So that's driving this demand. Looking at inventory, first thing we noticed, we have about a 10% drop in inventory from last year to this year. So the industry has not been able to supply as much as demand is asking for. Roughly 60% of the apartments that are available are in construction. 40% are being launched. So this is sales prior to construction, and only 2% are ready. So these are apartments that have been built in the last 36 months that are ready and not sold. So I think this is really interesting because it shows the absorption of the supply. We have a drop in overall inventory, and what we have in inventory is basically in production.
I see.
Just same information over time. Again, looking at the affordable market and the overall market, I think the number here that for me is very, very interesting, and it goes to your point, Ramiro. If we look, and I apologize, this is in Portuguese, but I don't think it makes a difference. If you look at the table on the right-hand side where it says Econômico August 24, 6 months, it basically means that the supply is being bought within 6 months. So right now, we have a turnover twice a year of all units that are available. And that goes to, you know, how quick and how easy is it going to be to sell these apartments? Is there an oversupply? Is there a bubble? What happens when these apartments are ready? And the answer is, if you're in the right location, if you're priced right, you shouldn't have a problem selling them.
Yes. Except, and on top of that, I mean, there's the system basically guarantees this because you work on anticipation, no? Because you basically start the project and you start pre-selling the project right there while you're still building the project. So by the time you finish and complete the project, in most cases it's completely sold. No, it's
Yes.
a very organized system where the sales goes along with the construction.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Our goal has always been to sell 100% of the units during construction. We actually more recently started to phase sales during construction more because we wanted to capture more value basically with the rising prices. So we launch a project, we sell about a third during launch, then we hold back, we start construction, we increase prices, then we come back to the market and start selling while we're building.
Excellent.
And let's just talk about what the market is like. What are these apartments? What do they look like? Basically, when we talk about apartments here in Brazil, here in São Paulo, the main segment is a 2-bedroom apartment. They represent about 71% of the units launched, 63% of the units sold, roughly 50% of sales volume. 1-bedroom apartments actually have the highest sales speed, reaching almost 20%. So the first message is apartments are relatively small in São Paulo. And this is proven by the second point. The vast majority of the 2-bedroom apartments are between 30 and 45 square meters, representing 69% of units launched, 58% of units sold. And again, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, because we come to the question of affordability, the smallest units are the ones that sell the fastest because they tend to have the lowest price.
Yeah.
Same thing, price. When we talk about price, apartments priced up to 264,000. That's the old limit of Minha Casa Minha Vida. That's why you have this number as a cutoff. Represents roughly 40%. So the message here is, who's driving demand? Demand is being driven by the affordable middle class, or the emerging middle class, and they're looking for affordable housing. So they're looking for 2 bedrooms, so that's a small family. They're looking for something that fits in their pocket, so that's something up to 300,000, let's say it like this. And the locations that people are looking for are it's spread across São Paulo city, obviously, but the southern zone is one of the regions where people where a lot of people are looking for. And basically, very important here, which is not here, but it's access to public transportation. Given the size of São Paulo, access to transportation is absolutely critical. Using your own car is more and more difficult. The further you live away, the longer it takes because you're stuck in traffic. So people are looking primarily for access to the metro, which is quick, which is clean, which is cheap. And over the last, let's say, decade or so, the grid has been built out. So by now we actually have a fairly decent sized grid here in São Paulo, and still being expanded. So for me, when I look at a project, I go, where's the metro? Which lines does it connect to? How do I get to the city center, to wherever people work? And then what's the price of the unit? How does it fit into the budget of the people, and how can they afford the purchase? And that's a big theme here in São Paulo. It's compact 2-bedroom apartments.
You know, Tobias, we are a big fan of ESG, or lower consumption buildings, or energy sustainable buildings. You see a trend going on in that direction in terms of make the buildings more efficient from the energy consumption. How important is the electricity bill for these families? And not how important is now, or how important will be in the future, in your opinion?
It's an interesting question, Ramiro, because let me see how I answer this. The electricity bill is important. The overall, let's say, cost of the building is very important to the purchaser because it directly affects the budget. So cost is very important to them. The government has taken a number of initiatives, changing the building code to incentivize more sustainable buildings. So, for example, we have to pre-install. We don't have to install the panels, but we have to pre-install the wiring for solar panels, for example, on houses. We use a number of different devices to reduce energy cost, water consumption, reuse of water. It's important to the buyer from a cost perspective, but we've had less luck in trying to price it into the apartments, to be honest. We were actually the second developer in Brazil that certified one Minha Casa Minha Vida project as a sustainable building using the French certification HQE. It was more important to the banks and more important to our investors than maybe to the end buyers, because people are very budget conscious.
Yes.
We as a company, we are also the second the real estate developer here in Brazil certified as a B Corporation, the American certification. So it is a theme. It is definitely important. It's very important to the banks. The bank actually give you an incentive in low interest rates when financing the construction if you have reduced, if you focus on ESG elements. it is important from a marketing perspective for buyers, but we haven't been quite able to price it into the apartments. I'll be very honest with you. So
I
it's
see.
something we've been working on for many years. It's something that will come, that is very important, I think. But the exception or our ability to price it and to get a premium compared to competitors is still limited.
I see. I see. Excellent. I didn't know about this. This that you were so far into the ESG. So it's glad to hear.
Yes, when we started out, as you know, we started out in 2012, and our first co-investors were Swiss investors. And ESG in Europe and Switzerland, has been a theme for a long time, has been a topic for a long time. So we started these discussions way back. We got our first projects certified using the HQE certification. We were a member of the group of developers that adopted the American system, the Green Building Council system, to Brazilian standards, because obviously you're working in a subtropical country. There are a lot of things that need to be adjusted. As I said, we got certified as a B Corp 3 years ago. So we are very active in this. We're looking at this constantly. But it's a very interesting space, but it's been a little bit of a challenge to market this, or to get the premium that I think the projects deserve from the market. I'll be very honest, but we continue doing it.
It will come eventually. It's happening everywhere. So I think that Brazil will catch up very, very soon.
Yes, and legislation is already catching up. So we have changes in legislation every year about noise reduction, natural lighting, reduction in water consumption, reduction in electricity consumption. So from a government perspective, changes are being made. I think it's still the biggest challenge is getting people to not to value it. People value it, but getting people to pay for it.
Yes.
Nobody wants to pay more.
Yeah, I understand. So this is a project.
Yes, this is our project, the one we're talking about. It's exactly an example of what we just discussed, what the market is looking for. It's a single tower, 18 floors, 120 apartments in total. It's less than a kilometer from 2 different metro stations, and also from a main bus terminal. So you have very easy access to wherever you need to go. It's within a residential neighborhood. That's something I like. It's not on one of the main throughways. You're in a residential neighborhood. You don't have all the noise, but you're still very close. The neighborhood provides you with whatever things you need in your daily life, such as supermarket, childcare, pharmacies, and these things. Here we have 2-bedroom apartments with a total area, total private space of 37 square meters. All of the apartments have balconies, which is something that people are looking for. And we have a full set of leisure facilities. In this case, as we're working on a limited ground floor, on a limited plot size, the facilities are actually on the top of the building. So we have a rooftop open to all owners, with a party room that you can rent if you have a birthday party or if you want to celebrate something. You have barbecue area, you have a pizza oven and pizza area, you have outside seating, inside seating. So you can do your celebrations up there. We have a fully equipped fitness room or academy. We have common use laundry facilities, which is something that's new in Brazil. People used to want to do their laundry in their own apartment, but as apartments are getting small, it doesn't make sense for everybody to have their own washing machines in the apartment. So we now have, let's say, US style common laundry facilities. We do have areas for the kids to play. If you live in a small apartment, you need to give the kids some space. So we have an inside and outside playrooms, which also come fully equipped. And given the rise of e-commerce, which is very strong here in Brazil, we have a delivery center. So people are out working and they can get their stuff delivered, and it gets locked in the lockers or in the fridge if it's groceries. And we also have a room where we offer tools, vacuum cleaners, these sort of things that you need, not on a daily basis, and that you might not want to have in your apartment. So you can share them with your owners of the building. So again, for me, it's exactly what the market has been looking for. It offers you the 2 bedrooms. It offers you public transportation. It's in a nice residential area. It offers you the leisure facilities that will make your day-to-day life easier. And it's a project we feel very good about.
So in this case, we already have the permits. No, we sold 40%, pre-sold 40% of the units. And when you expect completion of the building?
Yes, we have obviously all the permits in place. We launched the project. Acceptance was very good. We sold the 40%, as you said. We're now holding back sales. We expect to start construction within the next couple of weeks or months, I should say. I'm just hesitating because we're now getting into the rainy season, so it's always a little bit tricky to do the foundation in the rainy season. So we'll work on the structure. Total construction's time is 18 months, and then we have a couple of months just for the legalization and handover. So we're talking roughly 2 years here for completion of this project.
So if investor wants to invest here now, he will be receiving the money back in 2 something years, right?
Exactly.
Beautiful. Excellent. Excellent project.
And Ramiro, I think, as you said, what we have in this project is a lot of the risks we have already, or a lot of the normal challenges we have already overcome. So one of them is obviously approval. It's always a little bit a guess how long the government is going to take to approve it. So this has been done. Registration with the land registry office has been done. Pre-sales done, successful. So basically, we're just talking now about construction, and then obviously selling the rest of the units. But again, seeing the acceptance at the pre-sales, I have absolutely no doubts about the sales of the rest of the units. So basically, we're talking about constructing and handing over this project.
Yes, excellent. Well, if anyone in the call wants to have more information about the project, Juan Pablo and his team have a lot of information that Tobias was very kind to prepare for us. So I think we're in time. I mean, we cover a lot of territory in 50 minutes, and also we have recorded this. We will send it to more than 100 people that requested information. So Tobias, we don't want to take more of your time. Probably we will invite you in the future as I said, we're very committed with Brazil. We think it's a great play for our money and for our investors' money. So, and we are very, very comfortable working with Hausbau and with you and your team. And we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye, guys.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.